Hello and welcome to the lunar eclipse in Pisces forecast. This is the live stream as well as Zoom room for my Blue Hour subscribers. Our readings today for this lunar eclipse in Pisces at 4 degrees happening on August 27th of 2026. And we'll be having this eclipse tomorrow, as I said, evening. And wow, what an incredible amount of world events have already occurred in just the last 24 hours. So I'm coming to you today a little bit with a heavy heart, and I want to dive into this chart to explore it and see maybe how it's affecting anybody watching on an individual level, and of course, answer any questions. So if you're watching live, hello, nice to meet you. I'm your astrologer today, Cawnawyn Mor. Please feel free to leave in the chat any questions or comments that you have. And then, of course, in my Zoom room, welcome to all of my Blue Hour subscribers who've joined me here today. If you are part of my free newsletter, you get access to the Zoom room where I will do readings for a couple of my lucky participants every month based on the eclipse chart, or in the case, the full moon chart. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at this crazy eclipse happening. Hope you're seeing it on the screen in front of you. Here we are. The sun is at 4 degrees of Virgo and the moon is at 4 degrees of Pisces. As a quick reminder, I work with an Aries rising chart, so we're not talking about houses today. This is occurring at 9:19 p.m. Pacific time. I'm over in Seattle, Washington. If you adjust to your time zone, you'll get a similar chart, but the houses will look different, and that might give you a clue of how this might be affecting your community or where you are locally. But today we're just talking about the planets, their positions, and their aspects they're making, so the relationships. So here we have our moon. It just crossed over at this point. We'll have just crossed over that 29-degree Aquarius North Node. And you can see the sun down here is very close to the South Node at 29 degrees of Leo. And so our nodes are these incredibly potent positions. This is why this is an eclipse. We're having a lunation. We're having a full moon, moon opposing sun next to the nodes, which is marking the north and south point on the ecliptic that the moon's orbit transfers through. And when we watch the moon orbiting around the sun, it creates this snake or dragon figure. And so this north node is known as the head of the dragon, and the south node is known as the tail of the dragon. And that's why we see that shape. And when this occurs, this is why the sun and the moon have lined up so perfectly that they eclipse each other's light. So with a full moon, right, a lunar eclipse, that is going to be the moon's light blocked by the shadow of the earth. And so our moon turns that incredible red color, and our ancestors, of course, marked this time with a lot of fear, and there were a lot of superstitions around this, of course, because this is one of the earliest forms of astrological study that we have, is looking to the eclipses as sources of yeah, as sources of stress and anxiety, because oftentimes it correlated with heads of state and leaders, them being eclipsed, them suddenly going away. I call this time a fated corridor because I believe that there are exits and entrances and choices made that kind of set the course forward in our lives in really profound ways. So what we do see is sadly people leaving us. We also see people being born around this time and coming in. These are really fated moments where souls exit and enter our world. And some of the most incredible souls in the world have been born under eclipses and under eclipse energy. But sadly, we do lose some incredibly great people as well. And again, I'm not going to get too heavy in the news because my heart is awfully heavy with hearing everything, but I do want to touch on it because I know a lot of you out there are experiencing some of the heartache as well. Exactly, yes. Uh, yeah, I'm trying to like keep it together for this just because there's a lot of really heavy news right now. So again, my goal here is to let's assess the chart and talk a bit about what we could maybe do in our individual lives to use this energy, especially with so much going on. Now, in my Bonfire Babble podcast, which I do a forecast every month for the zodiacal season, for Virgo season, I talked about this. And the biggest thing I noticed, first of all, was how cerebral and of course emotional this eclipse is. A full moon is typically emotional, right? We have the moon opposing the sun's full light and that opposition illuminating the moon. But then the moon, which is our body, it's our relationship to our physical body. It's also that private heart's desire, that feeling and need of safety in our lives. That suddenly is shadowed, right? The earth is eclipsing it. And so things are not what they seem. Things come out into the light that we didn't realize were going on. There are secrets being uncovered. Everything that was once in darkness, that was supposed to be illuminated by the full moon is suddenly quiet and darker, and we see other pieces that we weren't aware of. So secrets can come out. Things that were once shrouded are now very visible, and what was very visible now becomes shrouded or disappears. And so we have a highly charged time, again, being connected to our body and to our emotions and our needs, our desires for security and for safety. This makes any full moon a very emotionally charged time. But we have Mercury, which is the ruler of our sun right now. Mercury is sitting right here and has just been conjunct with our sun just the day prior. And so this, of course, is happening tomorrow as of when I'm recording this on August 26th. The lunar eclipse is happening on August 27th Pacific time. So Mercury will have already made its conjunction with the sun, and Mercury being the ruler of Virgo. This means Mercury is incredibly potent and loud, right? Mercury's ruling the sun's position here. We'll get into Pisces rulership in a moment. But Mercury being so close to the sun and then just crossing over the sun, if we were to look in the sky right now, we would not see Mercury because the sun's light is so blinding. Mercury being right next to it, there's no way to see it. And so this kind of shatters apart Mercury's energy. It makes it hard to grasp. Where is it? And so Mercury being the ruler, it's kind of hard to grasp our thoughts here, but we probably have a lot of them. In fact, Virgo, it's very, it's a sign around refinement, around finding the right details, being precise, and it's probably feeling quite hard to get a precise feeling right now, a precise idea of what we're supposed to be doing or how we're supposed to act. I certainly have been feeling some of this pressure, and Virgo really wants to get it right, wants to get it perfect even, which, sorry, Virgos, there's no such thing as perfect, but we're doing our best here, okay? So Mercury is trying to assess all of this data and maybe boil it down to some sort of distinct truth or pure clarifying moment. And it's hard to grasp that with Mercury, being shrouded, or not really shrouded, being blinded, right? We have the moon being shrouded, we have the Mercury being blinded. So we're kind of being in a blindsided way of grasping at details. Where do we find something of substance here? And then because Mercury's ruling it so close, it's almost like we've put the static so close to our ear and we're trying to listen, but it's so loud we can't make anything out. So we're being bombarded by this energy, this really potent energy, yet there's nothing that's making sense. So one of the things I mentioned with how cerebral it is, there's so much data, so much information, and then we have the emotion, the depth of that Pisces moon in play here. What can we do with this? And the thing that I found most inspiring was actually the moon will come into a trine with Mars. And also, we have this moon and this sun, as you can see, in an exact mutable square to our mutable Uranus and Gemini. First of all, I want to be sensitive to Uranus because Uranus is shock and surprise. Uranus will shake up our world and rattle us. That what we thought was going to be forever is no more, and literally can be earth shattering. And I don't say that lightly, of course, given what's been going on in the news. And this can make ourselves feel like that too, where something that we thought was stable, was true, was real, is suddenly whew, gone from our lives. Or suddenly we are exposed to information, trying to piece together all these details that now we can't unhear that. We can't process life without it. Life is forever changed going forward. Uranus has this way of totally changing the precedents and changing the fabric as we go forward. So how can we use this? In my mind, because it is also in Gemini, right? It's a mental sign. I felt like there was so much mental energy while looking at this chart and all the emotion felt with it. Something that has been really helpful, at least in my practice and my work, is using Uranus physically. And we are coming into this beautiful supporting trine with the moon being down here talking to this trine to Mars in Cancer. And so what I see here is water energy. Of course, that's flowing energy. And then I see energy itself, chi, Mars. And so what I said in that forecast, and I really want to just emphasize it here because it's showing up so strong, is move. whatever you can do to move your body, move the flow of emotion, move your energy, however you're able to take all of what's being stored up either up here or in here or maybe both right now, and how can you move through it? Maybe it's taking a walk, maybe it's doing an exercise, maybe it's dance, maybe it's just keening and crying, right? Don't let the energy become stagnant, because that could wreak such havoc. I honestly feel like this moon is one of those, especially because we have Pisces. Let's talk a little bit about the Pisces energy now, because Pisces is so beautiful and magnificent, and also dangerous in a way, because it's intoxicating. It's the fantasy. Where can I escape to? Where can I rush off and, you know, be in a different reality, one where maybe some of this hardship doesn't exist, and where can I be in a place that feels magical? That's a wonderful thing. And it can also prove to be a very dangerous thing or a very ignorant thing. And so we must be mindful with Pisces. And Pisces, because it wants to escape, or because it kind of lives in this fantasy. Meanwhile, we have it opposing Virgo. Virgo, who would really like things a little bit more grounded, practical, real. Is it useful? Is it tangible? Is it's actually going to serve anything here? You know, that's why they're in opposition, okay? And so we're dealing with this opposing force. How do we bring the balance? And Pisces may end up sort of over fantasizing the worst case scenario. Virgo is trained to look for the problems, because that's what it's here to serve, to help fix. That's why I love Virgo energy. Yes, they're critical because they are trying to be useful. They're trying to be helpful. They're trying to improve everything that they're coming into contact with. And their structures that they build are so meticulously crafted. And so both of these signs are working in service to a better reality. Pisces says, let's imagine something sweeter, better, more exciting, more fantastic. And Virgo says, let's make sure it works. Let's make sure it's mentally sound, that we've assessed all the problems before they hit. And so, how can we work these two together? To me, it's not sitting in the what if. It's not sitting in the despair and letting sort of the fear and the fantasy and and I'm saying fantasy in both a shadow and a wonderful positive light, right? Like, we can fantasize about things that are incredible and wonderful and get lost in that. We can also let ourselves take, that fantasy or that visualization so far as to, really scare ourselves. I think that and a lot of people I have met with this Virgo Pisces axis very active, they will think 12 steps ahead to really envision the worst case scenario. So let's get out of that. Let's disrupt and interrupt that mental spiral that we might find ourselves in with all of this, and allow that chi, that energy, to move through us. And again, however movement looks like for you, for your comfort, for your ability, I just so encourage you to take in that fresh air, ground yourself, and feel it through your body without shame and without judgment. Uranus is here to disrupt, to interrupt. And, it's days like today when I assess the news and I always emphasize Uranus is here to liberate us. Uranus is here to change things and to free us from our chains. And I do believe that, especially on an individual level, even in those moments that are so challenging and so painful, we're broken free of maybe a fantasy or a lie or a structure that is no longer sound. Uranus comes in and breaks it apart and says, you can't live like this any longer. But days like today, I look at what happens in the world and I can't possibly make a case that we've been liberated. That just feels so shallow to me. And again, honestly, as an astrologer, I'm stepping into this with a lot of anxiety and fear about sharing these ideas, because I see suffering and I don't wish that on anybody, no matter what the eclipse season or a Uranus square brings. So I was thinking deeply today about, well, where might there be some source of liberation here that Uranus could potentially offer us in the light of this moment? And the best I could really come up with, because I did search, and I was honestly trying to just think of what could hope, what is my hope for this chart, that faced with a very Piscean truth of that there is suffering, that there is pain, that there is endings and death and deep loss. Pisces is the very last sign of the zodiac. And it's deeply in touch with that things are ending, that loss is real. But Pisces is also deeply connected with compassion and with love, and it transcends boundaries. And I guess my hope for this is that whatever emotions you may be going through, anybody, honestly, right now, whatever people might be feeling out there, observing the news, looking at the astrology, I would hope that perhaps in our shared suffering and our shared feeling and emotion, Uranus can break those boundaries that we may have and recognize that Piscean truth of that we are all connected in this human experience. And that seeing those that suffer, whether from illness or from disease or from catastrophe, that they might, I don't know, that we might connect to them on some level and recognize we're all human and we're all trying to do our best on this planet. And like, can we stop judging each other? Like, can we start loving and reaching out for each other in that compassion? Oof. Yeah, I told you guys like I'm coming in today just like with a heavier heart. And it's hard to find a lot of like joy and spontaneity and light in this chart because it is dealing with heavier subject matter. But Pisces is that constant reminder of the unconditional love. And so I hope that right now I can offer that reminder to you that that exists within this eclipse too. Where can we tap into that unconditional love? Where can we tap into that connection we can bridge with another human who may be a whole world away from us or, a community away or, on a different economic level, whatever that looks like, where can we bridge that connection? Because that, I believe, is something Uranus is also here to teach us, especially in Gemini. Gemini is meant to expose us to polarity, to extreme. And that is earth shattering. So when Uranus acts, it feels like the ground is shaking. And sometimes that means we're met with like an opposition, like this sun moon opposition we're interrogating within ourselves and in the outside world something totally different, something that rocks our sense of reality. So, can we observe that and recognize that there's truth in both sides? That there is a bridged connection. That is what Gemini is here to teach us. It's to expose us to the other and see that humanity in both. I don't know how this is affecting many of you. I've heard from so many clients and friends that this eclipse season has been difficult. I have found it to be one personally of profound truth with its ups and downs, of course. And I think in moments like this, it occurs to me some of my most Uranian lessons have been being exposed to 1 minute I am high and happy and things look amazing and just how quickly they can fall. And yet at the same time, in the face of such despair and hopelessness and sadness, how somebody's compassion or how some sort of opportunity can arise and you take it and everything changes from that point. Like there's still magic in those deeply painful moments. And often I feel like they come through compassion. And that is what this Pisces moon is here to give. We have this square, right? The square is action. It demands movement. It demands change. And so by trying to resist that when we're stuck in a stasis of not allowing for the flexibility, for the energy to move inside of us, we can harden. We can become that crystallized version that is impenetrable. We don't allow to be bridged, to be merged with. So please take this opportunity, use that square energy in some way. And maybe movement looks like making a decision, making a tough call, saying the truth that needs to be spoken. These can be courageous acts without physical exertion. However, I would highly recommend it, honestly. Especially with the trine to Mars. You may feel that it actually comes quite naturally in some respect, even if it's stealing a moment away just to express your emotion into a page or into a mirror or something, right? Working with water, yes, I know it's a Pisces moon, of course. Yes, working with water would be good, but because we have the Mars being emphasized just hours later after this eclipse, how could we use that energy of water to move the emotion? The last thing I want to end on, and then I would love to address any questions that you have if you have some. And thank you all for being here watching this live right now and just seeing some of your comments come through. Just, I really appreciate it. And it's really lovely just having some other souls in the room with me here today. The last thing I want to just mention, we are about to come into the alignment of not only the moon's ruler, right? The moon is in Pisces and its ruler is here, Jupiter in Leo. Jupiter in Leo is going to trine Saturn in Aries. Saturn in Aries, it's been an experience to say the least, right? He's been here for the majority of the year. Jupiter is now coming into a fire trine with Saturn. This is one of multiple trines we'll be feeling, but this is going to be the perfect alignment of this just in a couple days. And we're experiencing this collectively right now as they come into this fire alignment. Remembering that fire is that chi energy. It's the drive, it's spirit, it's connecting us with what moves us forward, what gives us life, what gives us warmth. And these two mega planets, right? I consider them to be personal, but they are also generational because Jupiter lasts for a whole year in that sign. Saturn lasts for 2.5 years. So your peers in your age group have the same Saturn and Jupiter as you, but they affect our Jupiter morals, beliefs, values, expansion. And Saturn, these are our obstacles, these are our challenges, but this is also our structures, our perception of reality itself. This is how we step into our authority. They're going to make this alignment. They were conjunct back in 2020, at the very end of 2020 in December. And now they have moved into this trine together, flowing that fire energy together. And so as the eclipse season starts to tail out, we see these two where I look at, I mean, the short answer of this is Jupiter is the yes planet, Saturn is the no planet. But in fire, where are we headed? Jupiter says, I'm going there. My fire is reaching to that place. We are driven into that. Like the rocket fuel is going. For Leo, how do I express? How do I stand in alignment with shining bright, sharing my gifts, sharing my creativity, my ability? How do I say yes to that? And Saturn says, let me provide the structure. Let me say no to what no longer aligns so that way you may propel yourself forward. Sometimes some of the most challenging, painful events can kind of rattle us into realizing what's really important. And, if you're feeling that in your life right now, I just want to say my heart's out for you because is there for you because I don't believe anyone deserves to suffer to find themselves. I don't believe anyone deserves to suffer, period. And yet there are times where like we face those most challenging moments where we don't think we can make it. We don't think we can go another day, where it's so hard to get up or take the next step. And yet something inside of us, that little flame inside of us decides to keep burning. So what are you burning for? Jupiter and Saturn are saying it's time. It's time to step forward bravely into that and say no to everything else that clouds that vision. Build that structure, cathedral around yourself because you are worthy of stepping into that shining light, to be seen in that energy. You are worthy of it. So whatever this eclipse season of this end of this year, right? And I can't believe I'm saying that, right? Like we still have a few more months left, but we are in the second half of this year, and this is the last eclipse season of 2026. As we step into the final chapter of this year, these two planets are making this alignment. It's a big alignment. It's bigger than what's on the menu for tomorrow. We're talking, the course of 20-year cycles. And not that you have to have all the answers right now, but I think if you listen to that inner fire inside of yourself and it's saying, hey, what's really important? What's actually really important? Commit to that without shame, without judgment, and allow yourself to step bravely through that. That's what I see as stepping out of this eclipse. And I sure hope that we feel it and that you feel that movement of energy. Okay, with that, there's of course many other things I could talk about this chart, but I would love to open it up if there are any questions from YouTube, especially just because we have a couple more minutes of that live stream. And then also I'm just going to take a look at the comments. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. If nobody has any questions, I will go ahead and, oh, no problem. It's okay. It's going to be recorded for this reason. I'll have it out online too. So it should be available right when I start. Sorry, excuse me, right when I hit. And oh, here we go. Hmm. Annie, I'm so sorry for your loss. Hmm. Hey, thank you again, everyone, for sharing. Oh, yeah, Annie, my heart's with you. My goodness. Thank you everyone for who's sharing, who's on here commenting, and who's with us today. I really so appreciate it. I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out this YouTube live stream. As a reminder, I do offer this every full moon. And if you'd like to be part of the Zoom room where I'll be giving readings in just a moment, please feel free to sign up. It's free for my Blue Hour subscriber. Excuse me, subscription. It comes in your mail. I only do mail a couple times a month, and I send out lots of other things. Like I'll be sending a spell book out to everybody who is on my newsletter, and so that way you guys have some idea if you want some inspiration to work with this energy of the eclipse tomorrow. I also send out new moon work as well. And what else? Be sure to listen to Bonfire Babble podcast if you're interested in my zodiacal season. I give the zodiacal forecast for every season, and we did talk about this as well as the upcoming new moon in Virgo that we're going to have, which I am very much looking forward to that new moon. So you can too, right? And that is, of course, free, and you can listen on anywhere you get your podcasts. And yeah, I mean, thank you again, everyone who tuned in to YouTube today. This will be posted, of course, on here. And for all those souls in my Blue Hour Zoom room, let's go ahead and get started. You guys take care, and I will see you next month.